episode 11 of the Powerhouse podcast, where we bring to you the powerhouses in the mitochondrial world. I'm your host, Brian Harman, President and CEO of the United Mitochondrial Disease Foundation. And I'm joined after a little bit of a break here, Phil. Dr. Phil Yeske joins us again. We took December off. I was fighting, I don't know, it wasn't COVID, it was everything else.
Yeah,
Did you get through the holiday period unscathed?
Somehow I seem to have come through it, just fine. Maybe a one day off a little bit, but I was certainly surrounded by some people that were feeling effects of other things. So yes. I don't know, good genes, I guess.
There was a lot of finger pointing happening, I feel like, in December. Who gave who what, but glad to hear that you stayed relatively healthy. And boy, it was important for us to come back with quite a bit of energy heading into January, because a big month for UMDF and the mito community this month.
Very much. Good drop of energy right off the beginning there.
Exactly. Well, one of the things right out of the gate is the launch of this new pilot genetic testing project, which we're so fortunate to have the generous support of our friends at Zogenix to help us advance this program. Tell our listeners a little bit about what's going on from a genetic testing standpoint.
Yeah, really exciting. So this is really a program we developed to test the concept of whether we could offer a patient-facing program, allow the patients themselves to provide their symptoms online through a symptom tracker, and then use machine learning on the back end. So that's typically some kind of software algorithm that we've helped to train with patients who have a confirmed diagnosis of mitochondrial disease. So the idea is, when you open up the program and patients that don't yet have a diagnosis of mitochondrial disease start to put in their symptoms, the algorithm makes a determination, this person looks like a potential candidate to get genetic testing. They may have mitochondrial disease. And I really want to stress that, right? We're not depending on this algorithm to make a diagnosis. There's by no means are we to that point. We're testing this idea that the patients themselves can provide their symptoms and the machine learning can make a determination, you should get a test. So if you go through the process and the algorithm determines you're a good candidate, there's still a doctor involved at our partner site who places the order with the testing lab. They send a kit out to you. You return the kit. It's a simple saliva spit test. You return that. And the lab will run a whole exome sequence on your sample. It is focused on nuclear DNA in this pilot period, but we know that covers about 80% of the diagnoses of mitochondrial disease. If we can get data off of this pilot program that shows it's effective, that we can identify patients, get them tested, drive diagnoses, that's what we all want, right? We know how important a diagnosis is to patients for their own emotional well-being, the quality of the clinical care they receive. And ultimately, it's the gateway to being able to participate in clinical trials so that we can get treatments and cures. So it's really important to get a genetically confirmed diagnosis for many reasons. Well, if that proves true, then we can really think about ways to expand the program and include mitochondrial DNA, et cetera.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting us at UMDF as we think about this being such an important part of our roadmap to a cure. We know that shortening that diagnostic journey is important as an organization, but most importantly for those families who are on that bumpy road. And I know you've seen just in your time with being engaged with this organization, the great strides that have been made in diagnostics. And it's great to be able to bring some of these programs to our community.
Yeah, it really is exciting. And genetic testing is certainly a field that continues to advance. And so you have to kind of constantly revisit what is the gold standard, how are data being analyzed. So there are a lot of learnings that can come from this that will really position UMDF to be able to offer even stronger, more impactful programs, going forward for the mitochondrial disease community. So stay tuned for those updates.
And so important too, as we're heading into this uptick in clinical trials activity that's happening in mitochondrial disease, a meteoric rise in that activity. And we know how important it is to get that confirmed genetic diagnosis to be able to enroll in clinical trials. Something I'm really excited about that has happened over the past couple of months at UMDF is providing for some resources for patient families to connect with clinical trials.
Yes.
We know how important this is. And a new widget that we put on our website recently was a new clinical trials finder tool that helps do some matchmaking based on your profile as a patient and clinical trials that are available. And maybe you could comment a little bit on that, Phil, about how this all kind of interconnects to ultimately enrolling in clinical trials as well.
Well, the interconnection is really the key word there, Brian. I think our goals were twofold here. One, we knew that UMDF needed to do a better job educating the patient community about what it means to participate in clinical trials. What do these terms mean, like placebo-controlled or phase 2A, et cetera, et cetera. So we've invested in building out a very robust lexicon of all the terms associated with clinical research. And I hope our patient community, uses this resource to just, it's a great place, a reference to go back to. You hear something or read something somewhere, know that you can come to our website. And I think we have a very comprehensive lexicon built out of just terms associated with clinical trials. So education as one component. The second component, very importantly, is how do we reduce the barrier for patients to find clinical trials that are relevant to them? Because that can be really challenging, right? The FDA runs a website called clinicaltrials.gov. It's open, it's public site. That's the official record of clinical trials taking place. Not patient friendly. Right. It's written in a way that's much more oriented towards investigators and industrial sponsors. So, to sort through that information and find the trials and where are the sites and who are they recruited, it's a complex site. So the widget that we've invested in uses the clinicaltrials.gov as the fodder, as the raw material, but puts a very user-friendly interface to it right on our website that you, based on your location and answering a few questions about the kinds of symptoms you or a loved one's experiencing, it should quickly get you to a subset of the clinical trials that are most relevant to you. And if at any point you just want to see everything, all the trials that are going on, that's also possible too. So I think it's a really nice balance of helping people get the information faster and finding what's most relevant to them, but also serving as a comprehensive capture of all that's taking place with mitochondrial disease.
I think at last check, Phil, that was around 38 or so
Correct.
Observational studies and trials. And it wasn't too long ago that you could count those on a couple hands.
Yeah, really true.
It's really great to see how much that is progressing.
Yeah,
so important that we continue to get folks in.
But you just used the term, right, that maybe some of our audience, like, what's an observational trial versus an interventional trial, right? So, a perfect chance, go over to the website now and kind of look those things up to understand the difference because it's meaningful in terms of the type of research that's being done. It's all there. And I really hope our community uses it and finds it valuable.
Well done on the website plug, Phil. We hope our community goes to umdf.org. We'll put the direct links in the show notes as well, too, so folks can get to both the genetic testing project, the clinical trials project. Of course, speaking of research, we're soon to launch here our UMDF research grant program.
Right.
And maybe you could give us a little bit of insight on this program this year, Phil.
Yeah. So, we're going to focus on the accelerators program once again, which is the UMDF program that attempts to identify a postdoctoral fellow. So a very junior investigator, someone that has recently finished getting their doctorate and is doing research in mitochondrial disease in some way, but they're still building their career. They may go into academia and continue research there. They may go into industry, but they still carry with them the experience of advancing a scientific project focused on mitochondrial disease. So, this has been a component of the UMDF mission, for 25 years. It's not only the investigators or clinicians that are involved in research now, it's how do we train the next generation? So we think it's really important. And of course, Brian, full kudos to you for helping to develop the accelerator program where we're combining that with donor engagement. All right, the donors that contribute at a certain level have the opportunity then to weigh in on the finalist candidates to say, these are the projects that I connect with best.
Right.
We want to make sure we're funding research that connects with our patient community too. So really nice blend, and we'll be getting that opened up here end of January. And as is typical, we'll have the big announcement, the pitches and the announcement as part of Symposium in June.
Yeah, happening in June. I love this convergence of mission impact, philanthropy, and this is what donors want, right? They want to see where their dollars are going. They want to have that opportunity to participate in research that they feel most passionate about, and that's what this program is about. You can learn more about that at the umdf.org/accelerators.
And I was just going to say, I really think the feedback we've received from the applicants is they like it too, because it trains them on how to be able to talk about science to a non-scientific audience.
Right.
That's a life skill.
Yes.
That's a really important one for scientists, because often scientists are accused of just talking over the heads, right, of everybody. So learning how to take your complex, detailed, highly scientific research proposal and put it in a format to be able to convey in 5 minutes, the key components of why you as a patient should care about this.
Right.
We're really giving them a valuable skill, right, as part of that process as well.
Well, one last pitch to our community. It's not too late to become an accelerator donor. So donors who give $500 or more per year have this, it unlocks this special benefit of being able to vote on the final project after it's been vetted by our review committee. They're selecting great science, presenting it up to our donors, and they have that opportunity to kind of put the final say on who that winner is. So check out umdf.org/accelerators to learn more about that. And of course, Phil, something that is just every single day, every day we wake up, we are focusing on building awareness for this disease. We're focusing on communicating all these really great programs to our Mito patients, to our clinicians, to our research, our industry partners. We know we have a marketing challenge as an organization. One of the first things when I first heard of this organization, I said, Mito what? I had to ask myself that question, right? It's something that we're constantly challenged with. And I'm delighted at the next phase of our organization of really amplifying the voice of UMDF, our brand, but more importantly, mitochondrial disease and what that means for our patients is the recent hiring of our new Director of Marketing Communications. We're going to have a chance to talk here in a little bit with Mr. Andy Dearth, who joins us as our new Marketing Communications Director. Let me give a little background on Andy first before we bring him in here, though. So Andy started his career as a marketer for concert giant Live Nation, where he rose from part-time publicist to a director role over 12 years with the company, promoting some of the biggest names in music, including the Rolling Stones, Lady Gaga, Bruce Springsteen, U2, and more. He joins UMDF from Goodwill Columbus, where as marketing director the last 5 years, he championed the organization's unique social enterprise model, helping to grow shopping, donations, and fundraising to boost Goodwill's impact in the community. He's a graduate of Otterbein University and resides in Central Ohio with his wife, son, and many dogs. I've seen these dogs, many big dogs and cats. Please join us and welcome into the Powerhouse podcast, Mr. Andy Dearth. Andy, welcome.
Thank you very much. And let me say, first of all, the Rolling Stones, they have nothing on you guys. You're the real rock star.
Oh, you must have, I didn't give you the show notes. I was going to give you a rapid fire question. So here it is. Maybe I already know the answer. Number one rock band of all time.
Oh, see, this is tough because for me personally, it's Motley Crue, but I could never tell anyone that. I could never tell anyone else that. So,
We've learned.
You just told everyone on YouTube.
I know. I just outed myself to the entire world. I had seen them in, I grew up kind of a child in the 80s and 90s, and by the time I was kind of old enough to go to one of their shows, they had a replacement lead singer. So in the mid 2000s, when they first started touring again, I followed them all across the country. I think I saw 7 or 8 shows over a 2-year period. And kind of funny. But I would think I will go with Mr. Bruce Springsteen, most likely.
Springsteen.
Yes.
Okay.
And I will say, before you even ask me, number one show I've ever seen, Bruce Springsteen plays the Seeger Sessions. It's absolutely incredible.
Ooh, what a nice combo.
Incredible band. Absolutely great. And it's funny because you think of Springsteen, you think of all the classics, the Born to Run, Born in the USA, all these great songs. And him playing Pete Seeger songs was my favorite part of it. So
very cool.
Yeah.
That's
Phil,
awesome.
I got to give you the mic for a second. Number
Yes.
one rock band of all time.
Well, yeah, this is a tough one. I would have probably defaulted to Rolling Stones, I just overall contributions, but I've always had a bias towards Rush. I go Canadian Power Trio.
You and
so
my
that's
father-in-law.
my own thing, right? Yeah.
Yes. I will say probably the best on instruments, like solid wise, is Rush.
Yeah.
Right. You think of Alex Lifeson and Geddy Lee, the whole gang, wonderful musicians. I can't get over the singing. I don't know. That's just me. The correct answer was Led Zeppelin, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. So
never a wrong answer.
It's all good.
It was a nice 2 weeks of the UMDF. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. Although you earned some points already by living the brand a little bit. There's nothing better than a director of marketing communications coming on with his boss, mind you, and wearing the brand of the organization. We've got the green, we've got the Mito U hat. For our friends out there that don't know Mito U, this is our educational hub where we have great content for patient families, for our clinicians. And Andy was bestowed a giant box of UMDF wearables as part of his onboarding.
Yes. And to clarify, it's all about branding. It has nothing to do with my balding head. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. It's I only brand in mind.
Fair enough. Hey, I want to dive in a little bit here, Andy, about, as I was reading your bio, rereading it, and you see this kind of unique blend of coming from, the rock concert promotion arena, literally, to the nonprofit world with Goodwill. And it was a blend that just really attracted me as a candidate for this organization, because we talk so much about what this community deserves. I talk about that way a lot. Like, what do our patient families deserve? They deserve those perspectives. They deserve that kind of understanding. We look often at how we're running our organization as a business. And I thought it'd be good for you just to comment a little bit to kick us off about just some of the things you've seen, the differences from moving from that for-profit world to the nonprofit world.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and it's funny because when I first moved in the nonprofit world, much more deliberate, and I think that in the corporate world, I measured things sometimes in minutes and hours and days, never in weeks and months and years and those kind of things. And I think that's one of the tough things with nonprofit work is that you can really, sometimes there's this frustration. And I feel it when I talk to Mito families, okay, we were here last year. We want to be here this year. And where's, and maybe it's incremental movement. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges is, in my rock star life is that, show's done, move on to the next show and this kind of thing. And I think you have this, yes, there are small battles every day being won in the Mito community, but I think you have to kind of take this really big picture approach of, okay, what can we do with research and what can we do with therapies and what can we do to move things forward? Because there's probably not going to be, we're not going to wake up one day and there's just a magic bullet. It's going to take a lot of incremental progress on things. And that's what I see from our staff and Dr. Phil especially, just out there, the constant advocacy and expertise and education and support the staff is providing. It's just incredible to me.
Phil, we
I
probably should go to
prefer Phil Y, the science guy. By the way.
He's got all sorts of nicknames. Some are appropriate for this broadcast. We should have given the disclaimer at the beginning. This is week 2 for Andy as well. So it's, we kind of joke about drinking out of the fire hose. I was cracking up a little bit when we did your announcement on Facebook on our social media, and one of our beloved volunteers was on there saying, hey, the only thing you got to do is explain this very difficult to explain, disease to an entire community. But we got a little chuckle out of it about how heavy a lift this is.
Yeah, it's true. In fact, I want to give a shout out to Mary, and I'm not going to mention any last names, but Mary, here's your quote. Welcome, Andy. With your help, we can help the whole country understand the complexities and need for research and support for treating and curing Mito. No pressure. So thank you, Mary.
It's been set by Mary.
Yes. So low bar being set by the community, I can already tell.
So give our listeners a little bit of your talk on that, Andy. Like what your tenets for building awareness and effective communication. We want to hear it from you.
Yeah. So, I'm a big believer in digital mediums. I think that, the world has really moved, and I've been over the last 20 years that I've been a marketer. I can remember sending press releases via fax machine. Like that's like, it's crazy to think about that. Like now, you know, like, and I can remember sending 8x10s, like literally FedExing 8x10s to a newspaper where, you know, they're going to scan them and they're going to put them in the paper. And, you know, like from that perspective to now where we have texting, you know, how many different kinds of social media, video, all these kind of digital platforms. So I think that my goal is to, yes, to find better ways to communicate with the community, you know, and we'll see what that develops. But, you know, I've seen it move from, you know, like, hey, doing mail pieces to doing email, and now it's texting and some of those kind of things. So I think that what I'm really excited about in this position is what's next. What's the next way to communicate with people? Maybe it is texting, maybe it's social media, maybe it is some new social media platform that doesn't even exist yet. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what really excites me most is we're living just in an age where, you know, even 3 years, even 5 years, even a year could develop a totally new communication technique. And I think that is really, really interesting. And I'm really hopeful that we can bring some new projects into the Mito community.
You know, we just wrapped up our 25th anniversary at UMDF, and we didn't quite put the bow on it that I wanted to in December. But as Andy's talking here about just, we talk about the progress in Mito. Yep. We talk about the progress in research and care, but from an awareness standpoint, from a communication standpoint, acknowledging that as well too means so much has changed.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I think it was super to look back over 25 years and, you know, enjoy and appreciate all the progress is being made. But I know for you as the leader of this organization and for all of the staff and the trustees, anyone associated with UMDF, we're not satisfied to sit still. And so constant evolution and, you know, finding ways to be more impactful. And that's the research mission. That's all of mission, right? Education, advocacy, support too. We need that same kind of mentality from an awareness building marketing perspective. So I'm really excited to hear Andy come in and just talk about, okay, here's how I think I can help UMDF get to a next evolution, a next version of what it can be on that front. That's only going to help contribute to our success.
Absolutely. Andy, on that front, like, so what are some of the tips for an organization, you know, that you're now a part of for us to stay on the cutting edge? I like what you're saying about like trying to kind of forecast what that next communication mode is going to be. And it's easier said than done, but just curious your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I think staying in touch with the community. I think we've got some really great people in outreach and education who are talking to the community. And really, you know, what I've seen from the Mito community is that they will form the relationships even minus UMDF. You know, they are using tools, whatever that is. You know, it might be a Facebook page, it might be a Twitter feed, it might be YouTube. You know, like we really have to talk to them because they're the ones that are going to be on the forefront of this. And we kind of have to adapt to what we think the community is going to use the most. And I think that's the really good thing. And the second thing is a lot of challenges with nonprofits is, you know, kind of bringing young people into the fold. When I say that young people, I'm talking about, you know, the generation that's, yeah, exactly. Yes. Well, three of us, right? You know, but one of the big challenges is, you know, like it's not a TV, you know, watcher anymore. It's not a newspaper reader. And a lot of times it's not even a Facebook, you know, member. It is something totally different. And finding that platform, it's not me who finds it, right? It's me who can listen to patients and employees and advocates and ambassadors to see like how are people communicating? And I think that it's really up to us to listen to the community and react to that. So if I knew, I would be a millionaire if I knew what the next big thing is.
Right.
But I think that we will find an effective way to communicate with people. And we want to hear from our community. Tell us what you want from us. Is it you know, a different social media platform? Is it videos like this? Is it 128 characters? You know, that's what I kind of have to figure out here in the next Oh, I haven't figured it out in 2 weeks.
Oh, come on.
Like I think that those
Mary's
things
counting on you.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sorry, Mary. I haven't figured it out in 2 weeks. I apologize. I think that the community really takes the lead on some of these things, and we will need to really listen to them and see and we have to meet them where they are.
Right. That has to be our charge. I love that, right? Listen to the community, if anything. And that's something that's constant from 25 years ago to today to 25 years ahead, is be going back to the community and sourcing their thoughts and their feelings and what they need and how they need to be communicated to. That's something that's just so important to us. You started to touch on this a little bit, and we're in this vein right now. Love just kind of get your first impression of the mitochondrial disease world, the mitochondrial disease community at the end of week 2 here. Give me some of your thoughts around that.
An absolutely passionate community. When I talk to people, I feel, their fear and anxiety and frustrations, and sometimes anger, and sometimes love. There's all these things, but what I see from everything that's been written to me, everything that I have, everyone I've interacted with, I see passion. And how can you not help but be passionate about this community? I mean, there are people out there who are depending upon UMDF and our staff to help guide them and help them, traverse a world that a week ago they might never have known. And as a parent, like heartbreaking stories. And my heart goes out to every single person that I've talked to and every single story I read. When I read those stories, I picture my own son going through those same things. And it is absolutely heartbreaking as a parent. And I want to promise the community that yes, Mary, that is a big charge that you put in front of me to understand the complexities and the need for research and the need for treatment. But that's why we're here.
Right.
We really are here to help you. We're here to elevate your voice to the decision makers and help you with all those other things too. So I think that one of the really, really cool things is just that the passion. And that's what I see. I have yet to see anybody who is just absolutely indifferent who is involved with UMDF, whether it was staff or a community member, a parent, a patient, whatever that is. But they just live to fight this disease. They want to take that next step. And I think it's up to us to kind of help them with that.
Phil, I know you see this in your role as, the other part of Phil's role as Alliance Officer, and so much of what we're doing is building those connections to all these various constituencies. And this is something I know has inspired you over the several years, Phil, that you've been at UMDF.
Well, I think there's many things that are inspiring about it. I mean, I think you alluded to it earlier. It's just the sheer volume now of the contacts, whereas it may have started with, 2 or 3 that were active in the space, that then grows to, 10 and 100. And, I've shared this in various forums. I've probably been in contact with over 50 different companies, right, at different stages that are looking at mitochondrial disease and considering how might their intervention or their technology be of value to mitochondrial disease patients. That's incredibly inspiring, right, and exciting to think about, because Andy, you did hit the nail on the head earlier in saying we're not going to have a magic bullet. Like the expectation of a pill dropping out of a machine that wipes out all forms of mitochondrial disease and eradicates it, that's not going to exist. This is an extremely complex set of diseases, right? It's really hundreds of diseases that we collectively describe as mitochondrial disease. And that's going to require a lot of different approaches from a lot of different directions. So we need a robust academic community that's looking at research in a lot of different areas. We need a robust industry that may be small, very nimble biotechs, all the way to very large pharmaceutical companies associated with it. And we need that same kind of diversity in the patient community across all forms of mitochondrial disease, and make sure that, and I think what UMDF can really help to do is bring that voice of the patient forward to those other stakeholders, to make sure that whatever programs are being developed, they're being done in a way that it's meaningful to the patient community. I think that's the overarching goal.
Yeah.
Glad you brought that up, Phil. We've been really focused on amplifying our voice of the patient efforts, everything from hosting meetings with the FDA. Of course, we had our patient-focused drug development meeting a couple of years ago. We want to continue that. And part of that is just keeping that drumbeat going. I know it's something that Andy's really excited about. And something, when I came to this organization, I was very excited about was the opportunity to share stories. I think I came in like day one and said, I don't want to see pictures of the mitochondria. That was a little bit of an overstatement. Like I like pictures of the mitochondria, but what I really want the stories of the families the passionate families that Andy's referencing. I'll never forget my very first Energy for Life walk I went to. There was a mito dad speaking, and he got up there, and the way he described his day, and he was talking about the grind. And that word just kind of sunk with me, because this was my first real experience of hearing from a patient family of what it means to be experiencing mito. And he used the word that word grind. And I've never let it get out of my head. And I thought about that, about how that relates back to the stories that we share. We talk about hope, and there is hope. We talk about progress, and there is progress. But there's the realities of the grind as well, too. And it's our responsibility to make sure we're showcasing that to those who are making decisions that are affecting our patient families. Andy, I know this is something that excites you, of finding those stories, and talk to us a little bit about the magic that we can do to bring that to life.
Yeah. And first off, let me say this, is that even in the 2 weeks I've been here, you read stories and you read things, and every day I've read one thing, and it might be a really small thing that just gives me optimism. Maybe it's for one disease in one community, but every single day of the last 2 weeks, I've seen one email or one story or talk to one of you, one thing that gives me optimism for families. So I think that is really, really important. And yes, we're in a slog, and you're in a fight against a disease that is very complex. But I think my goal is to help share those little successes, right? To talk to families like you're talking about, and come up with, okay, here's the story of John, and John is doing A, B, and C, and to show how UMDF is providing support, education, getting them heard in front of the FDA, whatever that is. I think those are really vital, and it helps people relate to it. And my hope is, when someone reads that, if you're a new parent who you just found out your child, or you yourself were diagnosed with a mito disease, my hope is you read that and you're not alone. Their support. And in fact, I just read a story, and it was about an ambassador, someone, and the ambassador called and talked to a mother, and they ended up talking for 90 minutes. And the mother said, how am I ever going to go on? And the ambassador said, there'll be good days and bad. You'll move on. You'll learn to live with those things, and you'll become stronger. And I think that's what UMDF is all about. It's about connections. It's about ensuring people don't feel alone in this process, and they feel heard too. And we're here to help them hear that. So in reading those stories, we want everyone to feel like they're a part of the community. They are heard. We are listening. So yes, I mean, I think that those stories play an integral part in UMDF.
Phil, how long has this guy been here now? But I would say, though, Andy, more than else, not to make your head too big here, because now that you're an employee of the organization, right?
Yeah.
It's clearly you're passionate about this, right? And it's a prerequisite to work at UMDF, in my opinion. I always tell this to candidates, and you picked up very quickly just the culture of our organization. Like we try to kick down doors. Like there's a lot of passion. We take it very seriously. We have our fun, and then I use that word, in an inspiring way as well too. Like we try to keep this work very interesting. We need to bring levity when we can, because let's be honest, this can be a grind for staff, for employees as well too. It's so important that we bring those different perspectives, but really inspired by your passion. I remember when I was recruiting you, I had said to one of our leadership team members, like, I talk about kicking down doors. Like, this guy's like going to run through brick walls, and I'm ready to run through with him. And this is good. This is what we like to hear. It's what our families are counting on. right?
Yeah.
And we don't have any time to waste in doing that. So on all that note, I want to make sure I'm being a good boss as well too. And let's talk about what you do a little bit when you're not building awareness, when you're not working.
Oh.
I just want to hear a little bit more about you as
all I think about. All I think
about. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about, like, you know, how you cut loose a little bit. And it's important.
Yeah.
It's important in this line of work.
Yeah, you know,
we're being mindful of that.
I was actually just having that conversation with my wife that, you know, I think that, you know, I was reading the story, and it's hard not to feel emotionally connected to every single person you talk with. And I don't think you turn it off. I think you just quiet that a little bit in the back of your mind until the next morning when you can come in and break down some more doors, right? But in my free time, gosh, I love to travel, and it's been like the worst 2 years for travel ever. You know, I was, gosh, I had 2 or 3 international trips planned that have been canceled the last 2 years. And every time I think something's going to happen, you know, who knows? But, you know, traveling, I love fishing. So I get out whenever I can. I love going north to Michigan. No, I don't hold any Michigan grudges. I love this state.
No, he's an Ohio guy. Okay. Now, do you know,
I know I'm an Ohio guy for everybody to know.
You're all the way up to the UP to fish, or?
Well, northwest, Traverse City area, you know, kind of those peninsula areas up there. But I love just getting out fishing. I love swimming, spending time with my family. Right now, I probably spend most of my free time on Minecraft with my son.
Time well spent.
Yeah, I mean,
time usually takes about 3 hours for them to give you a Minecraft tour. I've learned with my boys. Well, I want to show you what I built. There's more. You got to go down this tunnel here.
And I've moved on to Roblox now, where my son enjoys killing me every single time I come into the game. So. Yeah, but I've got a 6-year-old who is he thinks he's 15, but he is running around and just a lot of fun. What we're really looking forward to, and I hesitate to ever even say the word, but hopefully as COVID, the concerns start minimizing him a little bit. We're looking to get him out a little bit more. He loves karate and parkour and all these other kind of things. So I'm really looking forward to being into that, because his last 2 years, you know, he started preschool and kindergarten and part-time and masks and socially distant and everything else. But we've got a lot of fun things that I think he's going to get into. And my wife and we're hoping to get back to traveling again, and we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, right now it's been chilling inside and lots of video games. So yeah.
Time well spent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Annalie, we're so delighted to have you on board for our organization at a time that I think is, I think, again, I was saying this when we were recruiting you, I can't think of a better time. And I'm sure many have said that before me, but I really can't think of a better time to be joining this organization where there's a convergence of activity. There is investment in therapeutic development, and what has always been there, families in great need. Yeah. And I hope you know just how important of a role you have in making all those things connect. That's been at the heart of this organization for 25 years is drawing connections and making sure we are connecting patient families in particular with resources, opportunities, and kind of understand what the trajectory of this disease looks like.
Yeah. And one of the things I have gotten from the staff, and if you're a community member watching this, the staff, they are there to help, like from an accountant all the way to education specialist to even you, Brian. Like if somebody calls us, no one, whoever answers the call. And that's right. That's what I found. And I think that's really, really exciting from an organization that we will be there to support every step along the way. And I have seen that from the staff already, is that they are just incredibly passionate, incredibly caring people. And it has just been so heartwarming to see for me. And I am really, really excited to see what we accomplish. And I think, yes, I read a lot of scary things, but that optimism, that hope is so important for our families. And it's so important for our staff to see those little wins. And it might just be the most microscopic win, right? But a win is a win. And, I hope the families know just how much the staff cares. and really, really wants to be there and help. And I think no matter who you reach, you will find someone to help, no matter what your need is.
Phil, those wins add up, right?
Stack
And
'em.
we got to find more of them, right? Keep stacking
Yep.
those wins. And
Keep
I think just some of the
stacking.
things we talked about at the top of this show, a testament to that. And this isn't just a UMDF puff piece here, right? This is what this community has done,
Yep.
right? This is our partners. These are the docs, the patient families. They're the ones kicking down those doors, and we got to keep stacking up those wins.
For sure.
Andy, something I ask every guest that comes on this podcast, aptly titled the Powerhouse Podcast, are the powerhouses in your life. Claire, I want to hear the influences in your career, in your life. Who are the powerhouses for you?
Oh gosh, man, you're putting me on the spot.
And I never tell anybody I'm going to give them this question either.
Yeah, I had a lot of great professors at Otterbein that really not so much in the specialties, but like I had a philosophy professor, Chuck Zimmerman, who was just unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and just taught me about life. And I think about college as, like, yes, you can find what you're really good at and really reinforce that. But one of the things he challenged me, and a lot of professors at Otterbein challenged me in, is using college as an opportunity to learn where your weaknesses are and to find your blind spots. And he was one of those people. He was the first professor that I remember that I took his class for absolutely no reason, just other than I just wanted to learn from him. But he was a religion and philosophy professor. And I have talked to his wife since then. And I hope somewhere he knows how impactful it can be. You looked at, but I have a really strong family. My wife and my son are my world, and they are my influence in getting up every day and doing what I do. And, you talk about that passion. My wife laughs because she knows that I am just, we're a passionate family. I'm a passionate person. So I get too loud. I get crazy.
I was going to say, we call that loud in my house. She might just call me loud.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've been patted on the leg and asked to be slightly quieter.
But yes, looks in restaurants. I've been there. I know the type.
Yeah. So a ton of, but I learned a lot at Otterbein, and I've had some great people I've worked with, whether it was at in the concert industry or at Goodwill. This is actually my third job in 20 years. So pretty crazy to think of it that way. But I've learned a lot along the way. And I think, those things go a long way. They add up every year. You just learn just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And I like to think I have maybe a slightly unique perspective on things coming from that. I don't know many concert promoters turned nonprofit, marketers, but yeah, I still use those contacts here and there for things. But yeah, a lot of great influences in my life that people have built me up, who I think that really reinforced that a life worth living is a life worth, giving back to the community. And yes, this is my job. Yes, I get paid for it, but I want to feel passionate about what I do. And in the 2 weeks here, I can tell you, I feel it. I feel it.
Awesome.
And I want to live up to Mary's words. How about that?
Yeah, you're the consummate marketing and communications professional. What a wonderful way to wrap our conversation today. This is what it's all about, right? It's about delivering on that mission, and it's about providing that impact, and it's about Mary and the thousands of Marys and Bobs and Sues and Jones and all of them that we serve, right? Each and every single day. And we're really delighted to have you on our team, in our family now, Andy, and just really inspired by the work you're already doing and what we're going to do together as a community. Grateful to have you with us. I probably should have you. Oh, go ahead, Phil.
Well, I was going to say, I told you that ghostwriting that Mary pseudonym would really work with Andy.
Right? It's really Phil. This is a puppet machine. It's all been Phil behind here. But I probably should give Andy the honors of telling people to subscribe to our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms so you can see this and all the great content. We've referenced umdf.org a few times today, too. Again, a lot of great new content on our website. I know Andy's, licking his lips a little bit. Other things we might be able to do and bring to the community. I love that you brought up earlier, Andy. Like, we want to hear feedback. We want to hear comments. It's how we serve. So be sure to connect with us on social media. Be sure to go check out all these great new features on our website. We'll put some of the links in the show notes. Andy, thanks again for joining us, being part of our team. And until next time, everyone, let's go fast.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.